the family had filed a suit for medical negligence both against ACH and the hospital's liability insurance carrier, Pro Assurance. Like the patient's unconscious and trusting a whole ass team to care for them and protect them. Like, do you hear the sound of that bus that I'm driving over you and parking on top of you? Where's the left foot? Gone. Missing. Left AMA. I love being right. So yes, I will tell you what is the correct side to operate on day in and day out. Hey guys, gals, and non-binary pals, I'm your host Hannah, and this is Under the Scrubs, in an alternate location. That's right, your girl is in Washington at the time being, so had to take it on the road. My mom had surgery and she's doing well. So far, so good. Not gonna lie, first day was a little rough, but that's because I got her home and then all her cats threw up. Not at the same time, but like staggering. It just, I don't know, it was a weird situation. I don't do vomit very well. Away from home. I was in dire need of a sweet little treat, but my sister, one of my sisters finally showed up with a sweet little treat for me today. So she definitely saved me. So shout out for that. Gold star for the day. I can't leave my mom alone too long because she likes to do this thing where she's supposed to be on light duty, and then I leave her alone for like longer than a couple minutes, and then she starts messing around with shit. She's not supposed to. So I gotta get done with this pretty quick. So yeah, all three of her cats vomited. I told her if she did as well, I was gonna leave, go back to Idaho, but she's been good. Still have my supervising job. They haven't figured out yet that I'm just a personality hire, so hanging in there. I did do a boss girl move. I brought in donuts and energy drinks, coffee and creamer, for people that don't do energy drinks or, people that don't, do whatever. Anyways, brought them in. So my bedside instincts had kicked in because, okay, so we're a cardiology clinic and we have really shitty EKGs, right? I wanted to take one to the ER, into the ambulance bay. Oh my God, guys, it's crazy. We literally just found one of your EKGs outside. Don't worry, I'll put it back where, wherever you guys keep them. And then just do a little switcheroo and then take the nice one back wherever theirs is. Take a nice one back to our clinic and call Biomed and be like, yo, you guys never tagged our new EKG machine, and then carve. That's right, carve our name into our clinic name into it. That way, if you show up and you're like, hey, that's our EKG, I could be like, no, look, our name's literally carved into this, it's ours. And just do that for every floor. Go to ICU, go to med surge, whatever. I feel like what's the worst that can happen? And honestly, that kind of brings me a little bit to my time out for the week. Okay, I saw this on the internet. I'm curious to know what other people think. I want to know your hot take on this. Is it unprofessional to basically be a normal human being at the nurse's station? And when I say that, as I feel like this is a common complaint we would get, is people would complain that the nurses are talking at the nurse's station. And now, don't get me wrong. I think there's a time to be respectful. I think if you have a hospice patient or a patient on comfort care, probably not be right outside the room, yakking it up, hooting, hollering. Probably not the time, right? Or don't be sitting out there blasting Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion, just something like that, right? But I used to get patients that would complain because they could hear us talking, just talking at a normal voice. And that used to bother me because I'm so I'm not allowed to have a conversation or I'm not allowed to tell a joke or anything like that. And it's almost like sometimes it's like you're supposed to be miserable with your patients or like their families, like in solidarity. And that's something that always used to really bother me. Or like I'd be playing music like very, very quietly on my phone or on the computer. And like I would get families that they would come up to like ask a question and like kind of start to like hear the music. And they'd get like really upset or they'd like would make a complaint about it. And it's like, am I not allowed to be a human being? Because if I had to take on every single person's emotions in this job, like I'd be burnt out. I probably would have quit a long time ago. So I'm curious to know what you think. Obviously, there's a time and place to be empathetic and be respectful, but I mean, do you think all units should be quiet? You're not allowed to have any conversations, or you just kind of like, screw you, I'm gonna be me, take it or leave it? So resources for today's episode are clinician.com, Supreme Court of Arkansas, CBC Canada, PubMed, APT and News, and Indigenous Watchdog. Okay, so if you ever get a procedure done or you get surgery, have you ever wondered why everyone you come in contact with, they ask you the same set of questions? Who are you? What is your date of birth? What are you allergic to? What operation are you having done? What side, if it is a side? What's your social security number? Do you have nuclear codes? Okay, probably not the last two, but like it kind of feels like no one talks to each other, because shit's happened in the past. Maybe you've had the wrong surgery done, or maybe not you specifically, but like the wrong surgery's been done, maybe the wrong patient, maybe the wrong laterality. When we do surgery in the OR prior to surgery, the last final verification is the last final check is called a timeout. It happens right before, and everybody that's in the OR participates. So, like surgeon, the RN circulator, scrub tech, and anesthesia. So that could be the anesthesiologist, CRNA, or if both of them are in there, then it's both of them. You go over the procedure, the consent form. You're making sure all the documentation is there. If there's a dry time, because you can set patients on fire. When I started at my hospital, we like within that month, one of our sister hospitals, like two patients had caught on fire. So that's a fun fact. Yeah, like I mean, just a bunch of stuff can happen, right? So everybody wants to make sure that they've got the right patient, you're doing the right procedure, you're not going to catch them on fire, and everybody knows each other. There's just a lot to go over, right? And so obviously this has been in place because bad things have happened. And it kind of feels like a downside to these stories because not all of these stories make it into the media, but like these things happen. I'd read somewhere that it's like, every week, like 50 procedures are done incorrectly, whether that be the wrong patient, the wrong thing, the wrong whatever, but like 50 are done a week. Now, sometimes they can get into the media, but maybe they're kind of small media stuff. I know of a hospital recently that put the 3 sets of wrong implants into patients, and it probably would have been a fourth. Was the media alerted? No. And if I come forward and say anything, it kind of becomes my word versus theirs. And I'm sure I would either get a nice fat, cease and desist, or probably a lawsuit or a pipe bomb in the mail. I did want to really cover just like a couple of stories of like wrong surgery done horror story, but like, damn, some of these stories are so locked down or they're vague with the whole story. Like, sis, give me the tea. Just go ahead and spill it. I did get a couple of them though, so I wanted to kind of give you Operation Improv Edition. Okay, so this one's actually in 2004 in Arkansas. A 15-year-old boy, Cody Metheny, he goes into the Arkansas Children's Hospital, ACH, for an elective brain surgery on the right side of his brain. They're going to go in and they're going to excise the right temporal lobe to eliminate his epileptic seizures that have been occurring on, you guessed it, the right side of his brain. Makes sense. This is known as selective amygdala hippocampectomy, or SAH. The whole thing's supposed to be about 4 hours, and it's being done by Dr. Badih Adada. He actually is of the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences, but he also practices at ACH. Now, ACH is very proud. They want to advertise this procedure, and so they invite reporters from a newspaper to observe and like take photos. And so his mom, Cody's mom, Pam is approached by ACH Public Relations Department, and Pam's asked to sign a medical authorization form on Cody's behalf, so that way they're able to release photographs that are taken during surgery. So surgery kicks off, and Dr. Adada makes incisions on the left side of the patient's brain, and the left amygdala had portions that were damaged and removed. There was also parts of the left hippocampus and other parts of the left hemisphere that, had tissue that was damaged and removed as well. But once Dr. Adada realized that, oh shit, I'm on the left side, he actually asked the media, you got to bounce up out of here. So Cody was repositioned. Dr. Adada didn't tell the family, and then he began operating on the correct side. Afterwards, Dr. Adada goes to tell the family, hey, we're all done. BT dubs, I did start on the wrong side, but no harm, no foul. I did the correct surgery. Hospital admin made it very clear that they were aware of the fact that Dr. Adada had began the procedure on the wrong side, but according to Dr. Jonathan Bates, CEO of ACH, he was not informed by Dr. Adada or anyone else that the surgery went beyond the dura or that any harm had been done beyond that. Cody had spent approximately 6 days in the hospital before being discharged back home. He went back to school in September, graduated from Parkview High School in 2007, so kind of seems like a success story, right? But according to his dad, Kenny, Cody was not the same after surgery. Cody was unable to express really any kind of emotion, especially even after the death of his grandma. He no longer got excited, and that he kind of had this blank and void look in his eyes. Actually, Cody was even referred to a residential facility known as Neuro Rehab Living Center in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where he was residing at the time of his trial. 15 months after surgery, the family had learned about the tissue removal out of the left side of his brain when Cody had gotten an MRI, and it showed that there was tissue missing out of there. January 2009, the family had filed a suit for medical negligence both against ACH and the hospital's liability insurance carrier, Pro Assurance. They were looking for compensatory and punitive damages based on 2 counts of medical negligence and 1 count of outrage. Pro Assurance comes out and says, yeah, Dr. Adada did remove tissue from both sides, but ACH employees didn't do anything wrong. Now, there's about 4 pages of big third-party sue and big lawyer words that I'm not confident on, and a lot of back and forth of countersuits, appeals, and all this other bullshit. But what it comes down to is a jury trial between September 7th and the 24th, 2010. Ellen Powell is a former ACH circulating RN, and she's called to testify. And she said prior to the surgery, she did a timeout per policy and procedure AP19. She said during the timeout, the procedure was not designated as a sided procedure like laterality. She said that all relevant paperwork had it listed as craniotomy for SAH. Now, Ellen admits she did not know what SAH was until after Cody's surgery, and even if she had known that Dr. Adada was operating on the wrong side of the brain, that she says she would not have been able to stop the surgery because Dr. Adada was a surgeon. And that's where I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one because, baby girl, it is everyone's responsibility in the OR to ensure patient safety. If you're operating on the wrong side, you're going to have to tell everybody, you're going to have to let that surgeon know. You don't want to listen. I'll flip the whole back table over. I'll call a code blue. I'll call my mom. I'll call your mom. If your mom's not alive, I'll get a Ouija board. The patient's unconscious and trusting a whole ass team to care for them and protect them. And so if someone's not doing that, then they have to be stopped. And if you can't do that, then all trust is lost, right? Ellen stated once Dr. Adada realized he had done messed up, he told her to call the parents and tell them that everything's going well, and then so she did. She also said that she never noted in the OR report that there had been a wrong-sided surgery because she simply wrote down what Dr. Adada told her to write down. Mary McVaniel, she's the VP of Patient Care Services at ACH, and she goes on to testify talking about what a timeout procedure does and how this, who's involved in it. And she does say that it is the RN responsibility to document if the wrong procedure or wrong side took place. And like, I 100% agree. And and I say, as a circulating RN, you bet your sweet ass I'd be charting that shit. Are you kidding me? Like, do you hear the sound of that bus that I'm driving over you and parking on top of you? Baby, we are in different tax brackets. You don't clock in. I still do. I have to accrue PTO and request time off. You don't. In the OR, I have to wear a stupid paper covering over my hat. You don't, at least at my facility. We see surgeons that like bring in their own little bags. There's even one I can think of that like they bring in their own coffee cups or whatever. Like, some wear their outside scrubs into the OR, or they wear their hospital scrubs outside, like literally physically outside, and then like come back into the OR. Like, they are above the law. Like, I can't do any of that. We are treated very differently by the hospital systems that we work for, and it shows. So you bet your sweet tits I'm going to protect my license and my ass. I'd be the biggest narc. Cops would love me. I'd be pointing my finger. That's them, officer. Even if I love the surgeon. Like, sorry, bud. My dog and I have very expensive taste. My husband sold his body and soul to Big Daddy government and does not make shit for money, so I need to support our very expensive habits. Get 'em. Right there. Judy Holloman, she's an NP for neurosurgery, and she testified for the Metheny family and said the circulating RN should have known that the seizure surgery was going to be lateral because brain surgery cannot be midline. And to that I say, duh, Ellen. Preoperative documents failed to ID whether surgery was left or right, and that failed to meet required standard of care, which is true. Pre-op documents need to match up with consent form, especially for laterality. Judy listened to Ellen's testimony and said that bee sucks at her job. She didn't pursue clarity as to what side the surgery was taking place on, and it is the circulating RN job to make sure that surgery does not take place on the wrong side. Cody actually testified via video that he knew he had had the wrong side operated on, but he had no recollection of his time at ACH after surgery. Post-op, he said he still had some issues with numbness and pressure on the right side of his face and controlling his vision and memory problems, but he had improved some since his time in Virginia. Dr. Adada, who was chief of pediatric neurosurgery at ACH at the time of Cody's surgery, jump scare, admitted that he had started on the wrong side, but he denied removing any of the left amygdala, but said that he did do a biopsy. He acknowledged that he acted below standard of care and admitted that he was responsible for Cody's surgery, which, yeah, no shit, like, your name's on the chart. He also stated, oh God, this is like a total neurosurgeon answer. He stated that he did not expect the hospital or the nurses to understand what selective amygdala hippocampectomy was. He said he failed to do a complete, consistent, and accurate charting of Cody's H&P. And he said, yeah, it was a sentinel event. And he does acknowledge that the procedures that should follow a sentinel event did not happen. The jury goes back, they deliberate, and they did find in favor of the family. Initially, they awarded $20 million in damages, and of course, Pro Assurance is like, hell no. So they start putting up a fight. The circuit court hears about this November 8th, 2010. The circuit court actually ultimately reduced the jury verdict to $11 million. It was an amount consistent with Pro Assurance's liability coverage for ACH. So then Pro Assurance filed for motions, appeals, the Methenys filed cross appeals, and then it's like this shit show working its way to the Arkansas Supreme Court because these Pro Assurance tight asses are clutching their wallets and pearls with the death grip of a sundowning 80-pound grandma because they don't want to pay this family. Well, they end up shelling out almost like $15 million to the family, and the surgeon actually had already settled with the family outside of court, and this was like several years prior, like, to the suit. And he had settled for $1 million. I'm like, is it going to fix anything? No, but it's going to help cover the costs, right? And it's going to help care for the son. I mean, he's going to have lifelong issues. He clearly already has. I don't know if he continued to live in like a neuro rehab facility, but clearly like the parents are not going to outlive him, and it would give them a peace of mind to be able to leave him with resources to be able to kind of set him up for success and being able to like be able to care for himself. Okay, so this next one, this would be, someone's worst nightmare, right? Having had foot surgery back in July, actually a little over a year now ago, I had offered people lots of money to a bunch of different people, really, just to cut my foot off, right? But I was always going to make sure that it was the correct foot, right? The right foot on my right side. Okay. Jason Kennedy, he goes into Grace Hospital in Winnipeg. He had a nasty infection in his right foot. The article says down to the bone, so I can only assume osteomyelitis. So naturally, foot's got to take its last walk. And October 31st, which is like the perfect day to do so, spooky holiday, Jason goes into the hospital to have his foot amputated. He had had his x-rays done, the infection's there. It's like his right toe under the bone, spreading throughout the body. He goes through pre-op, gets back into the OR, goes off to sleep, little kiss to the forehead. Here comes a propofol. He wakes up in PACU, and what's greeting him? The side of his right foot. Where's the left foot? Gone. Missing. Left AMA. Manitoba's health minister said that the surgical error is now the subject of a quote unquote critical incident review, which I would say is a nice professional way to cover it. Usoma Asagwara said Winnipeg's Regional Health Authority Indigenous Health Department will investigate whether racial bias contributed to the incident. First Nations organizations were outraged. They said tragic error, which left Mr. Kennedy in shock and disbelief upon waking from anesthesia, highlights ongoing systemic issues within healthcare delivery to First Nations people, said the Assembly of Manitoba chiefs in a statement. The AMC is calling for immediate action to ensure a full, transparent investigation into this incident and demands that the Assembly be part of the review process. Jason is from the Blood Vein First Nation in Manitoba. Luckily, he is trying to make light of the situation and adjust to his new reality, saying he needs to get like some upper body strength if he's going to be in a wheelchair now, and that he's hoping for like a hovercraft. And he appreciates how staff at a different Winnipeg hospital are helping him now, but he has yet to hear from his community. He says every community should have somebody to help support whoever is having an amputation. They should have somebody like a member from the band from their community to support them on this journey coming to Winnipeg. To that, I absolutely agree. I had taken care of a young diabetic woman who told me of a program in the community that they were in, and she was saying that when she was diagnosed, that they had like a peer program. You were paired up with someone who had very, tight control of their diabetes, and so they kind of took on this newly diagnosed person and like helped them learn how to control their diabetes. They taught them all about like carb consistent diets, like Dexcoms, insulin spikes, like if you're going to go out to eat, kind of how to gauge that. If you've got questions, it's kind of like a normal lay person and like how to relate to that kind of person instead of like having a medical provider give you all this information, kind of like having a lay person be able to walk you through that, which she said was incredibly more helpful than a dietitian or whoever it was that had like given her education after she'd been diagnosed. She had said that it helped her really navigate her new norm, which was really beneficial for her in the long run, and actually helped her turn around and join once she was able to get a hold of it and get years of experience, and now she helped serve in that program as well. So navigating this new norm of an amputee is absolutely life altering, but my question is, what about the infection in that right foot? Like this all went down November 2024, so like what's going on with that? Is he going to get his other foot cut off? You're just going to take the toe off? Because then you'd be like a double amputee, and then that's going to be real tough. Like the pictures that they have of him, like kind of up in the news, he's in a wheelchair, so he hasn't gotten a stump yet. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. He has a stump, but he hasn't gotten a prosthetic yet. I got a lot of unanswered questions, Jason, and I'm going to need you to step to the front so I can ask them. And now you might be thinking, well, how can this be a race issue? All right, well, Sheila North, she comes forward. She's a very high profile First Nations woman, and she's an advocate. And after she hears about Jason Kennedy's story, like Homegirl starts having flashbacks. She had surgery at Grace Hospital in 1995, and she was supposed to have surgery on her right hip. It was her more painful of the hip. Eventually, she was going to need, it on both. And the one on the right was going to be her first in a series of four. For pre-op readiness, she was supposed to shower and kind of put this brownish liquid on the area, and it's supposed to kind of remain on the skin as she was remembering. And she had said she remembers this very distinctly. They tell you to use this cleanser on the area that they're going to operate on. The night before, they wanted me to shower and to have this, and it looks like iodine. Put this on the hip I was having, operated on. I put it on my right hip, and then when I woke up, it was my left one that was done. Sheila is a former journalist, and she said she was really surprised and confused, especially after having like spoken with her surgeon beforehand, like in her pre-op appointment before the surgery, like all that. Like they were gonna do the worst one first, the right one. So why was the left one done? And like it wasn't even until her follow-up appointment a couple months later that she was able to ask her doctor. She's like, "Hey, bro, like what the hell? I thought we were doing the right one first." And the only answer she got was like, the doctor was like, "Well, yeah, but I mean, they both needed to be done. Like they're both bad." Like end of conversation. That was it. So like she was like, "Yeah, I mean, this kind of is a problem, right?" I was like, "What? Like that'd be freaking nuts." I mean, that's still considered the wrong procedure. You know what I mean? Obviously, I didn't see the consent, but I mean, more than likely, she would have signed a consent for the right hip. Like that's insanity. Worldwide, there isn't like an adoption of a timeout. The World Health Organization introduced a surgical safety checklist in 2008, which included the concept of a timeout prior to incision. The goal was like in 2020 that 70% of countries that had facilities were gonna, be using it. Like implementing any kind of change, though, you're gonna have resistance. People can argue that there isn't time, staff don't want to. There is a lack of strong safety culture, short staffing. Using timeouts can actually reduce post-op complications by 30%, and you can save like 5,000 lives every year. There's actually a really particularly vivid example. So there was a Norwegian survey of surgeons, OR nurses, and anesthesia personnel, and they found that 38% of respondents had experienced uncertainty with patient identity. 81% had experienced uncertainty with surgical sites, and 60% had prepared for the wrong procedure. If that doesn't nicely highlight the need for like a basic foundation of safety, I don't know what does. And like shit's gonna happen, people are gonna people, but there needs to be like some kind of continuous, I don't want to say attempt, but like strategies to change culture, right? So like start young in medical schools across the world, nursing schools, hospitals, scrub schools, like all the places where people are kind of starting out in the OR to initiate change, right? And then you just kind of keep hounding that change. You're gonna find the ones that are gonna resist. They're easy to spot, the ones, and then you just kind of keep on those ones the hardest, and just, I mean, there has to be some kind of way to make this change. There's got to be a way to make this better. I couldn't imagine going in for, my right ankle surgery. I come back out and then like they've done it on my left side, and I'm like, wait, I did not have issues with my left. Because then if you're gonna be like, well, we'll go back in and do your right for free, I'd be like, absolutely not. You're not touching me. Hell no. Get away from me. Give me ketamine. I mean, that would just be insanity. But yeah, so I just wanted to share a couple horror stories. That wraps up this week. Sorry if you have a procedure coming up. If you do, ask to use a skin marker, and you can write on the side if it's a laterality. Just really big letters. Please operate on this side. If you are in the OR, you can use both your hands and do like that left and right to differentiate between the two. I remember once having to prep in like both sides of like legs. I think we were doing an Achilles or something. And I remember like we all knew we were operating on the right side, or we were operating on like one of the sides. and we did our timeout and everything. And like right before the surgeon cut, he had asked me to verify from the chart and like from where I was sitting that like he was cutting on the correct side. And like there's a short list I love in this world, like my dogs, my cats, like my family, Chris, and I love being right. I love being right. So yes, I will tell you what is the correct side to operate on day in and day out. I'm not sure what I'm discussing next week. Hero's operating on like 5%, so I'll figure it out when I get back home. Until then, no one else better throw up. So make sure to listen to your doctors and make sure you get the correct surgeries. And I will catch you guys next Tuesday. Okay, love you. Bye.